just start with the newest news. What went into the decision to kind of have this another home meet on the schedule this weekend?
Well, Eric, you kind of mentioned it or alluded to it. We're struggling to find weather right now, and we've not had good conditions for the throwers, even at Texas Relays or Abilene or anywhere we've gone. And then it was freezing cold at Baylor. We did not get done what we needed to do with our sprinters. And the other people competed to their best, even though yet they weren't a sprinter. It wasn't ideal conditions. And so it was raining the whole time off and on. It was cold, it was windy, and we were out there all day for 2 days. And here, Oklahoma has a meet that we've agreed to go to, and they're doing the same thing. They're having a Friday, kind of an all day, and then a Saturday drawn out meet, and it's supposed to be in the 50s. So we just came up with, when we saw 79 for Saturday, we came up with a thought of, hey, can we get, Western Texas and junior colleges or somebody to just come run us? We don't need to do a whole lot, but we need to run a few of our sprinters for sure. And luckily we got Western Texas and South Plains. And this is a tough weekend with regional high school. So a lot of people wanted to come that couldn't because they're putting on the regional meets. But the idea came from that is we're looking for weather, and we think we're going to get it.
Is it just as simple as you talked about the weather in terms of the factors? That just as simple as it just is easier to put up good times and good marks to get into those qualifying areas in better weather?
It is. And our sprinters, you can look at the national championship that was won in 2019 is like 105, and every record was set. A sprinter, you give them really hot weather and everything just works well. Your muscles are you're just able to really get loose and run well. And it's just a proven thing that heat is so much better for sprinters, and heat is terrible for a distance runner. So, but we're to the point with our top sprinters of getting marks, so we need to get 100 for Jacoby and we need a 200 for a couple of kids. So it's just really an opportunity to control the environment at home and control the events. We're going to cut the events down and only have 1,500 down. We're not going to run the whole gamut of a track meet. The NCAA allows you to do that. And so we're just going to have a real short 2-hour meet with field events and 1,500 down, but mainly try to get accomplished what we want with our sprint group.
And in terms of people who have really been performing well, what kind of groove is Gabe in right now? It seems like I think from what I read, it was third straight really good, or just third really good, outing for him this past week.
Yeah, he especially has been in the discus, and he's thrown over 200, in the hammer. And so that's his second event. But yeah, we're crowding that 200 mark. He's had a 195 in terrible conditions, 188, but he's winning. And I think that's your point. We've been really fortunate to see him go compete well, no matter the conditions. But we're just trying to get that 200-foot mark and have a good day to do it in. And he's not had that opportunity because the winds have been terrible, or the rain or whatever. So hopefully we can pull that off this weekend, but at least it's going to be dry and warm.
Don?
So Wes, I came in late. Are you even sending anybody to Drake then, or is Drake Relays even on with the weather or not?
Well, believe it or not, it's snowing. I believe yesterday we were told by our timer guy, but it's supposed to be 60s, I think, on Friday and Saturday with sun. And so we are planning on sending Tacky there. They're setting up a special race, for the 1,500 there with rabbits and to try to take the pace through. And so we're trying to set him up at a really fast pace. And if it's 60 degrees for a distance runner and it's not too windy, then that'll be good conditions.
Yeah. When was it that y'all decided to have your own meet? What day? Is that something you put together yesterday or when?
Almost. We started talking about it Monday when we kept looking at the 50s for Oklahoma. And nothing against them. It's their meet, but they were going to run prelims on Friday and then the finals on Saturday. There's only 3 teams, K-State, them, and us, that were coming, with a few bits and pieces of Oklahoma State. That travel to Baylor was brutal. We were out in the cold for 2 whole days. Our kids were freezing. We got in at 2:33 in the morning, and we just didn't want to do that again. It's just been a really tough travel, and it's 5.5 hours to Oklahoma in the same situation. They're rushing the meet on Saturday to be out of there by 3 because they're having a spring football game, and they're going to clear out the parking lots for the track area. So they're going to rush the meet. And it just worked out to where we didn't want to deal with all those conditions. And we saw 79 here Saturday. Well, we can have a few events and get hopefully our male sprinters mostly. Our female sprinters have got better marks, been healthier. Courtney and Jacoby, to be honest with you, we've been careful with them and with those hamstrings that they pulled indoors, and we're bringing them back slow. And we really hoped to get it done last week, and we didn't. So now we're going to try to make sure we get it done here.
How many people did you have that you took to Baylor that you did not compete at Baylor because of the weather?
We didn't compete Jacoby and Courtney and Terrence on the men's side, and we didn't run Peyton. We ran Peyton just in the 100. She begged us to do that. We didn't run any of our top people a lot. Some of them we ran. It was a little bit better conditions, and they've been healthy, so we decided to let them run one thing. But we just held out the injured people, to be honest, or the ones that had been injured. We just didn't want to take that. I didn't want to be guilty of running somebody and they get hurt their hamstring at 50 degrees, cold and rain, when I knew that it's just, not the point. It's too early. We were a month from conference at that time. But we are a month, we're 3 weeks away. So we do need to get, those guys 100 and a 200 mark, not only for conference, but for regionals, because our region is the toughest region, the West. And they're going to have to run 10:20s probably to get in, and probably, 10:2 or better in the 100. So that was the thinking behind it. But some got to compete, but they didn't run fast times because it's bad conditions at Baylor.
Yeah.
And we're not doing much. We're not going to run too many kids this week. This is really just set up for, 4 or 5 kids. We're going to compete a few more, but we're not going to compete a lot of kids this weekend. We're just going to try to get those 4 or 5 things done.
Figure out, maybe you mentioned it, I forget, how many events total you guys are going to do? Which one? Are there any that you aren't going to do, just in general, in terms of having?
We're not going to do javelin. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to run either relay, but we're going to have it for South Plains and Western. But we're also not going to run 5,000, steeplechase, 10,000, just 1,500 down to the 100, and try to get it done about 5:30 to 7:30, something like that, a couple of hour meet. The field events will take a little longer. They'll start at 3 and probably go to about 7, because with the 3 throws and then the jumps, the 3 jumps. But it won't be, it's going to be mostly our kids competing against each other, with a Western Texas and a South Plains scattered in on certain events. Probably some events it'll just be us, but we felt like we got good enough competition among our team that we could run the times we need to. We need the weather. And so it's just all coming down to that weather.
All good. Eric, Don, any other questions for Coach?
We're gonna line up most everybody next week. So, we got a home meet, the Corky Crowfoot Classic, and that's our last tune-up before Big 12. And I can talk about it more next week, but you're going to see us put together, our relays and everything for next week. But we're going to try to get these individuals done this weekend. Thank y'all, guys.
Thanks, Coach. All right, guys, we're going to have questions for Jacoby Shelton here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jacoby, but you'll be in the 100 this weekend. First individual race of the outdoor season. So, Eric, if you want to start, first question for Jacoby.
Yeah, Jacoby, just in terms of what the excitement level is like for you, kind of being able to get this first one under your belt this weekend.
Um, I'm really excited to run the 100. I haven't ran any open events in a long time. Obviously since indoor season, I haven't ran anything, but um, I'm really excited. The excitement I had at Baylor and when we were in Waco for my first opener, I was feeling really ready to run. Just see what time I put down, just for my first 100.
When when did you decide not to run at Baylor, or did Wes decide not to run you at Baylor?
Uh, believe between Coach Kitley and Coach Rob, it was a collective decision. I was warming up by 5 o'clock, 4:30. I didn't run until 6:20, but Coach Rob told me, like to be on standby. I mean, we might not run, so I was talking to him about it. Like, I mean, it's like 2 weeks before Big 12. I need 100. I need a 200. But yeah, it was. I believe it was a collective decision between them two. And then it was around 6 o'clock. I was still trying to warm up. Only 20 minutes left before I run, so he just told me to shut it down.
Going back to Big 12 indoor championships, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what that day was like for you?
That that day was probably one of the most intense days of my life, uh, especially on the track. It was a lot leading up to Big 12s and for myself and for the team. And the prelims before the actual Big 12 final day was a lot too. Uh, I had missed a lot of time off running. COVID, I was getting sick, and then we were losing people from other injuries earlier throughout the season, and so it was just it wasn't looking very promising for us for Big 12. So, but after prelims in the 60 and 200, I was feeling back to like my old self a little bit. I hit some times I ran my freshman year when I got to Texas Tech. So I knew I was more than ready. I was going to be more than ready for the next day to go even faster. So, and carrying it felt like I was carrying all the weight on my shoulder. I had to step up very big time, especially for the men's side to sprint, put a lot of points on the board. So, yeah, it was probably the most intense ever.
And I was trying to recall. Let's see, you won the 60 or 200?
The 60.
The 60, and then you got hurt right in a 200, was it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's kind of mixed emotions then, huh?
Right.
And then what has your kind of recovery been like since?
Ever since, my recovery has really been it's been uprising every day. From the beginning of the injury, got MRIs and CAT scans and things to figure out what it was, what could have been the cause. We really attacked it right away. We didn't wait for anything. We weren't just going easy and then we're gonna see what I could do. Like we hit it right away, and we have great training staff here. So um, Frank and Taylor, they pretty much knew exactly what to work on after they got every MRI back. They pretty much knew where I need to get stronger. And Coach Rob, by the time I got back to the track, fixed up my running form, the way I run, to help cause another injury. So it was intense, but it wasn't too much or nothing I couldn't handle. So, but it was all great. It was worth it. It was all worth it.
And let's see, what was it what did they diagnose it as? Was it pulled hamstring or what specifically?
I had a hamstring strain. It was a level 2 hamstring strain, and they call it the belly, in the belly of my hamstring, in the very middle of my hamstring.
Yeah. Yeah. When would you say you felt back to normal with no restrictions?
Around probably around 3-4 weeks, about around the third week when I started running. The third week.
Kobe, off of that, what was that? What was that? I guess in terms of when you said you felt like you were fully back, what was it about your body that made you that day made you feel like, okay, I'm good?
Well, they were holding off on me sprinting for a long time, but like actually full out sprinting. So around that third week of practice of the injury been going on, it's been 3 weeks. He told me to put on some spikes. So I was like, oh, okay. And I was just running 10, 20 meters. But it was how effective I was pushing out without blocks, how effective I was turning over. Like it was the best I've ever felt ever since I've ever ran here. And I'm like, something different. In my body, I knew something was different. And then feeling something, when you feel something different, you're like, So you start to question, like, how come I feel like this now? And Coach Rob was seeing it within me at practice. He was just, giving me complex questions as usual. And I'm just looking at him lost a little bit. But I could just feel the way I run versus the way I was running. It was a complete change. It was a complete change. And I felt way faster, way better moving. So I got to give him big props for that.
For you, is it easy to get past? I feel like one of the bigger things is when you have an injury like that you don't know kind of how it'll stand up. For you, was it easy to mentally get past that and just run, or do you kind of find yourself that first time watching your steps a little bit and things of that?
I would say it was easy for me to get past. At first, as it happened, I was like, because it was so much going on before Big 12s, and then this happened at Big 12s after I had won at 60. So I was like, I was a little down. But after the MRI came back and we started doing rehab, it was more so just like, all right, we gotta hit the training room hard. As we hit the training room hard and we go back to practice, we gotta hit practice even harder just to make sure I didn't, I gotta get faster before I ever run again. So I just had that mindset going into it, and I believed in everything that Coach Kinley, Coach Robin, everybody in the training room had for me. So, that made it even easier for me to just move on. Like, okay, when I come back to run, it's gonna be like, oh, he's running. So.
So what's the outlook for you kind of for the remainder of the season now?
For the remainder of the season, I'll run 100 this week, and I'll run a 200 probably at our next Texas Tech meet, and we'll run the 4x1 together. And then come Big 12, most likely try to do the same thing I did Big 12 indoor. Because you never really know what you'll do or what'll happen until you're in a big environment setting. So that's what it was. That's what it felt like me indoor season for Big 12s. I was in the Big 12 indoor environment setting. And, you always want to win, so the remainder of the season, we should hit some very good marks and just keep rolling as the season continues, really.
How do you feel about y'all's potential on the sprint relay?
We have great potential. We have great potential. We got a lot of people that can really move on this relay. Obviously, I've already ran the relay before, especially with people like Devon and AJ and Keon. He was on that same relay as our first leg. He's ran with them before too. He's a great block starter and a great 100-meter runner. We've got Ashton O'Connor, who's a great 200-meter runner and 100-meter runner. He had a great relay in high school. And I personally know him myself, being from the same area in Houston. And then we have Courtney Lindsay, who's coming in. And he came in here and did great things. First indoor meet in the 60 and 200. And he's going to do great things in the outdoor 100 and 200. And he has to get a 200 under his belt too as well. And I feel like we have the best pieces for a relay overall. Like hands down with anybody, we have the best pieces. We just haven't ran collectively together as long as everybody else. But our first relay we ran wasn't too bad for the handoffs and stick to be just a little shaky, nothing too crazy, and the time to be, nothing too fast right away. But it lets us know where we are, so that as we keep running and keep going over everything in practice, it'll eventually come down as a whole. So.
Back to you, Eric.
I guess let's go one more. Jacoby, what is it about like getting the perfect weather for outdoor, the kind of 70, 80 degrees that makes it a prime area for y'all to sprint as opposed to maybe the 50 degrees at Baylor?
That's a really tough question. I never really understood it myself either, but I kind of, I got a glimpse of it when we were at Baylor and Waco. And one thing Coach Rob really iterated and harped on was, in these type of weather conditions, especially with somebody of me, like who just came off a hamstring injury, first, single event, you don't want to go out there trying to run in these type of conditions, and then boom, something happened, and it could be worse, or the same thing happening because you in, this type of condition. And I'm like, okay, because I wasn't thinking about that. That's my first 100. I'm ready to run. I'm trying to 10-2 or faster. I'm ready to go. So, but I understood that. Then next week we'll be at Oklahoma, and it's supposed to be lightning and raining in Oklahoma. So I'm like, man, okay. So, they came up with the idea to have a meet here. So it's going to be 80, 81 degrees. So, I would rather run in 81 degrees than, a great, great hot day and you feeling good and everything going good versus I feel good, but it's 50 degrees and it's cold and, it's raining on and off, so, and that does take a lot on your body, especially when if you didn't sit on the bus too long on the way there, or you warmed up, then you're cool, you're warm, then you sit down, you get, now you get cold, you got to get back up, re-warm up. Sometimes you don't have time for that. You just got to, but you get up, you got to go run. So that's pretty much what it's like for days like that when, you might be feeling good, but it's cold for you to run versus a day you feeling good. And, it's great weather for you to run. So.
Any more questions for Jacoby?
I think I'm good.
All right. Jacoby, good job, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.